Hello, it is Monday, January 16th, 2012, and for those of us in the United States, it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a day we celebrate and honor the legacy and work of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so in honor of that, in honor of the social change, civil rights, justice work that he did, I wanted to talk about why I feel eating disorders are a social justice, social change issue. So I wanted to start by reading my favorite excerpt from Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail. He wrote this on April 16th, 1963. And if you've never read it, I highly encourage you to go out and read it, especially today. I love to read parts of it, all of it, on this day every year. And so I want to read my favorite excerpt and use that as a jumping off point to talk about eating disorders as a social justice issue. So an excerpt from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail, April 16th, 1963. But though I was initially disappointed at being categorized as an extremist, as I continued to think about the matter, I gradually gained a measure of satisfaction from the label. Was not Jesus an extremist for love? Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Was not Paul an extremist for the Christian gospel? I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. Was not Martin Luther an extremist? Here I stand. I cannot do otherwise, so help me God. And John Bunyan, I will stay in jail to the end of my days before I make a butchery of my conscience. And Abraham Lincoln, this nation cannot survive half slave and half free. And Thomas Jefferson, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? I love that. Will we be extremists for love or hate? What kind of extremists will we be? And to me, that is why I feel eating disorders are a social justice issue. For me, it's about being an extremist for self-love, for love of each other, for love of our bodies, for love of who we are, and an extremist for justice, because there are so many unbelievable healthcare and insurance inequalities in this country, and I presume in others, but I know it is a mess here in the United States. People do not have equal access to care for eating disorder recovery and mental health problems. You know, insurance companies tend to only cover maybe 30 days at best of recovery treatment. Therapists and researchers and patients will tell you it takes years to properly go through recovery. I mean, treatment programs, you know, don't sometimes last longer than 30 days. So that is why I am an extremist for this issue, and that is the type of extremist I want to be. So I wrote down some other ideas along this that I want to share. Will we be extremists and embrace ourselves, love our bodies, love our spirits, love our minds, love our hearts? Will we be extremists who stop the media persecution of body image, to stop the verbal and visual violence and negativity inspired and perpetuated in fashion magazines and television shows and the entertainment industry? Extremists who want to end the worldwide eating disorder epidemic, because it is an epidemic. And not just eating disorders, the way negative body image permeates the entire world, all cultures, all demographics. It's epidemic, because if we don't love ourselves, we can't do anything else, because we're not living to our full potential, and we're not loving each other if we're not loving ourselves. Will we be extremists for awareness and prevention of eating disorders? Will we be extremists who promote eating disorder recovery? Extremists for justice in the insurance industry so that there is proper coverage of care for eating disorder and mental health patients? Extremists against weight stigma? Extremists against rape culture and the epidemic of sexual violence for women and men worldwide? And transgender individuals? Extremists who speak out against the cultural norm that encourages us to live in shame, suffering, and living in pain? Will we be extremists against anything that anyone who verbally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically abuses anyone on account of their body, mind, and spirit? All social justice movements are after the same thing: love. Self-love, communal love, not just tolerance, not just awareness, but an unconditional love for ourselves and for all creatures living on this earth. Extremists for love. So that is why I feel eating disorders and prevention, awareness, recovery are a social justice issue, a social change issue. I call myself an eating disorder recovery advocate. Sometimes I use the word activist. I personally prefer to use advocate for a lot of reasons. Maybe that's another video, advocate versus activist, but for me that's what feels right. And there are a lot of people that call themselves eating disorder activists and advocates. I'm actually part of a community that's based mostly online. It's called the Eating Disorder Activist Network. It was founded by a woman named Rachel Stern, and she's also the executive director of Eating Disorder Activist Network. And we're a Facebook group. There's also Rachel's working on building it in so many ways. One of the things is she's putting together trainings for social media and social change, and for me it's an incredible group to be a part of because everyone's coming from so many different professional places. Some people are like me, they're artists, some people are authors, some people are mental health professionals, doctors, researchers, students, academics, the list goes on, but everyone is there for one cause, and that is to spread awareness about eating disorders. So I actually wanted to read the mission statement from the group. This isn't like a promotional thing. This is, for me, an example of how people participate in being eating disorder activists and advocates. So I wanted to mostly use it as a platform to give an example, but I also highly encourage folks to check out the work that EDAN does. But I thought the mission statement so perfectly encapsulated why someone would make this an activist advocate cause. So from the mission statement on the website for Eating Disorder Activist Network, it says who we are. We are every single one of you. We are men, women, transgender individuals. We are young, old. We are change makers and those just starting to think about making change. We have had eating disorders. We have had friends or family members with eating disorders, but most of all, we are people who want to make the world a better place. We are all here to make change. Thank you for joining us. And then the mission under that says, the Eating Disorder Activist Network serves to unite and provide resources, community, conversation, and training for those looking to create a better world for those suffering, those who have suffered, and those susceptible to eating disorders and the world at large. For me, while eating disorders are a really personal issue, as I've made clear in this series and all the work that I do, why I've really focused on it more so than some of the other activisms and that I have worked on in the past and continue to work on is because for me, A, it's personal, and B, it starts with loving ourselves, and if we're not loving ourselves and functioning to our fullest capacity, then of course we're going to not love each other. And that isn't to say that I feel that eating disorders are the most important cause. It's to say that that's where I'm putting my efforts, and all of these causes are equally important and crucial. And that's why I feel, it's like as a writer we say write what you know, and so as an advocate, an activist, a change maker, a social justice peacemaker, promote what you know. Take what you know and be an extremist for that. So what kind of extremist will you be? And for me, I am an extremist for love and for self-love and for ending the eating disorder epidemic that is permeating this earth. And I would love to hear what kind of extremist you will be. Please share your comments, your videos, in honor of this day, in honor of every day. Every day is a day to honor the legacy of Dr. King and so many other change makers and justice workers throughout the world, throughout multitudes of centuries and eras. So, yeah. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.